Welcome to the Magic of Medicals podcast. I'm your host, Buddy Abrahams.
And I'm Terry Allen.
A show about the moments that changed people's lives forever. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Magic of Medicals podcast, Jean and Kristin. Thank you so much for your time. We're really honored to have you guys on our podcast.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're honored to be on your podcast. Thanks for asking us to be on here.
Fantastic.
So what we wanted to ask you just before, because obviously I'm just going to mention it for people that don't know, but obviously I was listening to your Inspired channel, which is on YouTube and maybe other platforms. You can tell people in a minute that I was listening to you guys for the past year. And that's how I came about hearing, you know, the Abraham Hicks and other things that you're sharing. And I thought it would be a nice starting point to ask, what made you guys start that?
Well, there you go. You want to start with magic? There you'll have magic.
Do you know what I mean? I just thought, I don't know, that came intuitively this morning. And I just thought, because I don't like to look anything up. Sometimes I do if I'm not but because we were going to do these, I wanted to just really feel it for the first time.
And for the conversation just to flow.
Yeah.
Well, you would have to dig deep to find the how, because I share it in our live streams, but I don't think we put it in writing.
No, I don't think so. Well, maybe on the website, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So it was April of 2019, and Kristin is a life coach. I'm an artist and songwriter. And so for me, at least, social media, YouTube, all of that it's always part of the equation, right? As an artist and songwriter. So I've managed, to be really successful on most social media platforms, and YouTube was never really a thing that worked out as well as I wanted it to. And then as an artist, I just kind of let it go. You know, of course we put our new releases up there, but I let it go. And it was in April of 2019. And I was, as usual, it was like a 3:30 a.m. meditation. I get up very early when the call comes, and I meditated, and I came out of that meditation. It became very clear to me. It was such a clear guidance, like a voice, and said, well, you know what? Start a new YouTube channel, call it Inspired. I was like, okay. So I started, and I on and off. I was listening sometimes to Abraham Hicks, and when I had an inspired thought, I'd listen to it. And I thought, man, I want to do something different with these segments and produce them differently, and all of this evolved really naturally. And I just started doing it. I don't really think for the first few days I even mentioned it to Kristin. She just noticed that I was on my computer a lot, and I just started doing it. And then I told her about it, and she was like, go for it. I'm all in, whatever you need. Let's do this. And for a while, nothing really big happened. I was just enjoying doing it. It was something different, took my mind off everything else. And then it kind of all started coming together. We learned how YouTube really works, which is kind of exciting if you want to use the platform or any other platform for that matter. And within a few months, I think it started kind of skyrocketing, and we got more subscribers and more views. And I think 2 months in or so, I woke up one morning and I checked the channel, and one video got 40,000-50,000 views. And it was like, okay, wow. We're rolling here.
Right.
And we never wanted it to be just, whatever, an Abraham Hicks channel. It was really about inspiration. And so we kind of cultivated that.
Yeah, starting doing the community posts, and
that's one thing that you started doing kind of intuitively.
Yeah, I didn't know that you can do that on YouTube. But
no, I didn't know either.
Yeah,
I still don't know how to do it. But yeah, I see your post. Yeah.
Yeah, so I started doing that, and people commented really, really nice and said, oh, this makes my morning every single day, and please keep on doing that. So that's how this kind of got, I don't know, more and more and more, and more ideas popped up. And last year, I think it was in March.
Yeah, when all of the
Yeah,
the COVID madness started.
Yeah, I came out of a meditation and I said, let's do daily live streams. People really need encouragement and people being positive, and maybe we can even help them. And so we started doing that. And I feel like 1/3 of the people are still doing our live streams every single day. Well, now we're doing it just 3 times a week, not just, but 3 times a week.
We're at 156 live stream total. Yeah. And we have some people that are on every live stream that are commenting, that are there every day. And really that's what created the Inspired Tribe. And that's when it took the whole thing to a different level. And that's where we're at now. I don't know, 85,000 subscribers on YouTube, and just a beautiful journey.
We started doing workshops last year because people kept coming back with questions, and they wrote us so much emails. So at one point we just could not answer all these emails anymore. And I said, you know what, maybe we should do some kind of workshop or something like that well, and out of one workshop, we have now 3 workshops
and a membership call.
And a membership call every Wednesday.
And the coaching academy.
And the coaching academy started in January, right? Yeah. So this is it.
And none of it was planned.
No.
None of it was planned.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought it was a great story for you to share. I thought, I don't know, it just came into us to ask you this morning, and that's why you had to share it. So it was that was wonderful. So thank you. And I'm glad that I actually did stumble across you guys by accident.
Yeah.
And a bit like when we discussed it, the other week when we were speaking, we would never have, that sounds really bad, but I wouldn't have contacted you to ask you to come on the Magic of Miracles, because it was just not coming in. It was only when I was in the shower that I heard Inspired. Oh, okay.
I suppose you get your messages when you're quiet and you go within and you kind of listen to that, whether it be a gut feeling, whether it be a message that comes in or a voice that you hear. You kind of have to trust and kind of put your ego aside, because that's when it comes in and it starts just flowing through. It's the same thing when Teddy got that message in the shower.
She wasn't even thinking
of it at all. She just came up and says, "You won't believe this."
Yeah.
But I think we should ask those guys from Inspired.
And then it was Kristin who said on one of the live things, you said at the end, "Have a magical day."
Correct.
And then that's when he said,
that's the click.
Because Magic of Miracles, right? And everything, I'm always about magical stuff, my children's books, everything is magical. So I just thought, okay, let's just see and roll with it. So I think I'll get any message in the shower then, no problem. It's when you get quiet, when you get a quiet moment.
Your water bill might go up, but you might make up for it in really good inspired ideas, so.
Well, the floor is all yours for you to share your divine moment with everybody, and we're really looking forward to it. I love listening to everyone's stories.
I mean, these stories help a lot of people because it kind of touches someone that's out there that kind of has that moment or kind of lost faith, or somehow the other, it just uplifts them,
answers
that question at that moment in their life, which kind of could change their life forever. And that's why it's so fascinating, because we kind of hear all these stories of people, but we always get these good references that comes back to us and say, you've helped us for this, or whether it be an adoption, whether it be some sort of a miracle that they've been waiting for, an answer they've been waiting for.
Or someone's not well, or they're sick with cancer at this time.
Always comes back, and it kind of shifted someone's life. And that's why we really enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're doing it. And that's what, inspiring others is, for me, it's the most fulfilling thing ever. That's literally even, on stage, that's always what I say when I sing my songs. If you're entertained, that's good. If you're having a good time, that's good. But if you are inspired, that's
correct.
That's when I feel like I've done my job. So as soon as we got your invitation, a story came up, and it's not the life-changing healing story, but it is it has so many synchronicities in it, and it feels so good. We love telling that story. So I think we want to, we'll call it the Magic Town story.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So, and there's more than just one moment in there. There's a lot of moments in there. And it starts way back when I was around 15 or 16 years old. And so we grew up in Europe. I grew up in Austria, and I was an alpine skier. And I would, with my coach and with the team, we would travel the circuit in Central Europe and be on a road all the time. And I was a unicorn even back then, or my coach and I actually, we were listening to country music, which almost no one does in Europe. It's a very
yeah.
And we would listen to, at that time, Garth Brooks, which, he's at that time, especially, he was the biggest thing in country music ever. And
George Strait.
And George Strait, of course, yes, the king. And so, we would listen to the CD up and down. There was this one song that we would always sing along to, "Friends in Low Places," an iconic song. And I thought to myself back then, one day, because I started writing songs at 14, and I thought to myself, one day, I want to be in Nashville. I want to write songs with guys like the people who wrote that song. Just iconic, bigger than life songs. And fast forward many, many years, we find ourselves in Nashville, where we live now. We've been living for a while now. And so years ago, I was invited to go to a festival, the Blast on the Bay Festival down in Port St. Joe, Florida / Magic Town. And the first time I heard about this from a songwriter friend, I had such a warm, fuzzy feeling inside of me. He kept telling me about this little town that's so special. And I had this warm, fuzzy feeling. And the first year I went to the festival by myself. And then the second year when they invited me back, I said, I want to bring my family. And, I told the guys at the festival, they booked us a hotel, and then things just kind of kept falling out of balance with this whole trip. Nothing would really work out. Things here didn't really work out. Then they had problems with getting enough rooms for us. And so Kristin and I, even though on the outside things looked kind of out of balance, out of whack, we were completely in sync. We said, this is going to be amazing. And we had a good feeling about it. And then I said, we're just going to trust the universe that everything's going to work out. Then our car broke down a couple days before. So we reserved a rental. And the day before we were bound to leave, Kristin gets a package in the mail with her new
sneakers,
new tennis shoes, as old school people call them. And so you should see her faces, because you don't know where this is going. It's going to be really good. And so Kristin tries on her shoes and says, what do you think? And they were pink, like pink.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely back in the day there, darling. Pink.
And I go, sweetie, you look like Barbie. I've never called her Barbie.
Never. I looked at him.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with him?
Did you really just say that?
So I don't even know where that word came from, but okay. So we had a couple of things to take care of before we left. And so we drive up to, or down the road to a store, pull into the parking lot. And I'm looking at the big letters. The store's called Marshall's. And I look at the big letters, and in that moment, my phone rings, and it says Lynn Marshall, which is the lady who's running the festival down in Port St. Joe.
Oh.
So I'm looking at the letters Marshall's, Lynn Marshall on my phone. So I'm like, this is, I'm loving this. This is, synchronicity. So I pick up the phone, and Lynn says, well, I wanted to call you first. There's this lady here down that owns a couple houses, and she loves the festival. And she wants to donate one of the beach houses for the time of the festival to one of the songwriters that's coming with a larger party. And I thought of you because you're bringing your wife and kids. Like this, I'm just thinking,
oh,
wait a minute. There's someone who wants to give us a beach house front row, for free for the stay of the festival. That sounds awesome. And she says, I just don't know, would you rather stay at the hotel or at this beach house? And I'm like, Lynn, I've been married for a long time. I'm pretty sure, 99% sure it's going to be the beach house, but I will have to ask my wife. But tell me, who is this lady? And Lynn says, she's a sweet lady. She's been living here for a while. Her name's Barbie. And I'm like, Really? Her name's Barb? I didn't even go into telling her what had happened earlier. And
I've never heard anyone called Barbie, apart from the doll.
And so, it keeps getting better. And so I hang up. I'm totally touched and moved just because things are beginning to come together. And I walk into the store, into Marshall's, and I tell Kristin about it. And we were so emotional because all of the synchronicities, and we just teared up and we're so excited. We're going to bring the kids. And we talked about it, and we just had a good time standing in that store. And I look at the clock and I'm going, oh my God, we're going to miss the pickup window for our rental. If that doesn't work out, we don't have a car to drive down there. So I called the company and they said, well, yeah, we're going to have a vehicle for you. Just make sure you come here as soon as possible. And we had rented like a standard size, smaller SUV or something. And so we get there too late. And the lady at the counter tells me, you know what? The vehicle you requested was gone. We had to let it go. You weren't here. But what we can do is we can give you this amazing luxury SUV, all the bells and whistles, for exactly the same price you had yours.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, this is
getting better.
Getting better and better and better. So we pick up the car and we make our trip down there. And from the minute we pulled into Port St. Joe, Florida, it was like, I don't know, sparkles coming down from the sky. It was like we were in a magic cloud. Wow. Everywhere we went, people were super friendly, went out of their way to make everything very special for us. Whenever we would sit down somewhere to have lunch or dinner, someone would come and invite us and buy our lunch or dinner. I was like, this is just absolutely amazing. And then I look at the schedule of the program, of the festival, and the way these songwriter festivals are is you play in rounds. So there's 3 songwriters on stage and they take turns sharing their songs. And I noticed that my schedule didn't look like the one they sent me on the email, and it had changed completely. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of bummed out because I was looking forward to playing certain places with certain people. And then because this is all around town and it happens in different places. And this new schedule didn't really tell me who I was playing with, just when I had to be where. And so the next day, I show up for my first show. It's an afternoon show. And I'm sitting there, and the door opens, waiting to go on stage. And one of the songwriters comes in, and it's Earl Bud Lee. Remember that name? I'm like, oh, gosh, I think I'm playing with Earl Bud Lee. He's a big deal. And so I was super excited. And we go on stage. I was a little nervous, not because of the crowd. I don't get nervous because of that. It was because I was sitting next to him, and he's a big deal. And so in my mind, I go, which song should I play? I really want to impress this guy. I was completely in that realm. And so I get calm. We start playing songs. And remember the beginning of the story. I told you about my skiing days and the song Friends in Low Places and My Dream. So Earl Bud Lee is the guy who wrote that song all those years ago. And here I am on stage sitting next to him completely. I had an out of body moment how all of this has come together. And then I started playing my songs. He plays his, and the other guys plays his songs. And all of a sudden, somewhere in the middle of the show, he leans over to me and he says, dude, I love what you're doing. We should work together. We should do this. We should write songs together. And in that moment, it's like I had all these flashing memories, how everything had to come together for us to be there, for everything to change, for me to have this moment with him. And it's like, imagine, you're in your teenage years and you have someone, not that you necessarily idolize, but someone you look up to, and you have this powerful vision and dream, and it all starts coming together, and it culminates many, many years later. And so this has become, for us, this has become Magic Town, and something happens when we go there. And I don't know what it is. And it isn't that our life outside of those experiences isn't awesome. It is awesome, but something happens when we go there.
It's different, magical.
And I'll tell you something. So as soon as we booked our vacation that we're going to go there now, I started creating a playlist on my Spotify, and I called it Magic Town for our trip down there. And 2 days later, you guys emailed us.
Oh,
Wow.
right, okay.
So when you said, what story do you want to share? Christine said,
The Magic
the Magic Town story.
Magic Town.
There's so much, if you think about it, if you think about how we as humans try to make things happen.
Yeah.
We try to orchestrate moments and plan ahead. And think about all the components that God or the universe, whatever you might want to call it, had to put together for this to so perfectly fall into place. And this is, I probably left out a bunch of details that are even more synchronistic.
Well, Earl, but Lee was really pumped too, because you told the story that, I don't know, so many years ago, you were driving through Switzerland and listening to his songs. And he was like, oh, wow, that's really awesome. So he loved the story really too.
So yeah, I shared the whole story that day on stage just because it was so incredibly synchronistic for me. And
he loved that story.
It just, the whole point, the whole moral of that story for me really is that we do create those things in the invisible realm. We do create the visions. We do create the dreams. And we think just because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Or not the way we think it should happen.
That it isn't real. And this has taught us, one more time to trust in the perfect orchestration, and that we can't do that. As humans, we don't have the capacity to orchestrate in the way that the universe does. And it's not our job either, I think. But this is just one of those, for me, it was a life-changing moment. And it changed my career also.
But what's interesting is that when you said like the hotel and the car and so people could see those as, oh, maybe we're not meant to go there. Or maybe, people can misread that as, oh, we're not meant to be there. The universe is trying to stop us from going there. Some people do read it that way, don't they? And sometimes it is right. Sometimes,
it is.
It is. So what would you say to people that are listening? How would you identify between those two?
I think it's a matter of either you feel discomfort.
Right.
You kind of feel fear around it. And what I said in the beginning is, although on the outside things weren't looking good,
we were already there.
We were already there. So it's kind of like when you sometimes, when you're on a project or when you're doing something, you have this feeling of, I just need to let it go. Just be calm.
Yeah.
Just do something else. And this will take care of itself. And sometimes you're inspired to really jump into inspired action and really do tangible things. And I think you just have to learn to really pay attention to the guidance, because if it feels good, and not necessarily the bodily sensation of feeling good, but if you have this sureness, you just know. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter if no one else understands it. You feel it. And so with that trip, we knew this is going to work out. But we couldn't have anticipated how magical everything was going to turn out, and how much better than anticipated.
So you basically had a feeling in your heart that this is it, it's the right thing, but you kind of just let it go.
Well, yeah, we did whatever task was at hand, whatever we could do at that moment in time. Not, and there were things beyond our
control
that we didn't even want to worry about. And these, if you will call them magical moments, they happen so often for us.
I completely agree with you, because, there's this saying that says God always has this bigger picture for us, and we kind of concentrate always on the smaller thing, or we feel that
we can limit ourselves.
Correct. This is what we need at this point in time, but maybe the timing isn't right, and there's a much bigger plan for us, or much bigger gift for us, if we just allow go with the flow and let it just flow through. It's quite easy. People always say to you, you have to drop the bag. I know it's difficult sometimes to drop that bag, but once you trust and kind of just drop that bag and allow the universe to just bring you what is needed for you at that point in time.
A bigger, nicer bag.
I mean, we could have told you stories that are way more dramatic in nature. I mean, we had a moment like that. I was once, for years, I wouldn't share that story. Now I'm like, hey, it's a good story. But many years ago, I was accused of having robbed a bank, and it was a very weird series of events that led to that accusation. But anyone who has known me for like 5 minutes knows, that's not an option. But we found ourselves surrounded by police and canine dogs, and they were searching our house. And from the outside looking in, the way the evidence was presented, I thought to myself, good Lord, this looks bad. I mean, it's hard, if you see this on paper, this looks really bad. I mean, if I wouldn't know, I'd believe I was there. And I remember in this situation, and I want to make it short because the magical moment was Kristin and I were sitting and again, just to paint the picture, canine dogs, 20 police officers all over the house, searching the whole damn property, everything. And the investigating detectives were with us sitting around our kitchen table. And I had like a good 15 minutes of complete shock because, they don't announce those things. They just show up, it's kind of the point.
They dragged you out of the car.
Yeah, they dragged me out of the car in front of our kids and whatnot. And so we were sitting there for 15 minutes. I was really disconnected from God, the universe. I was just, good Lord, this is a shitty situation. I don't want to be here. I don't want them to be here. But 15 minutes in, Kristin looked at me. We never exchanged a word. She looked at me. I looked at her. And for about, I can't tell you what felt like an eternity, but it was just a split second probably, we communicated. And it was this, we connected with each other. We connected with the universe. And I felt
a shift.
I remembered who I was. Kristin remembered who she was. And we pretty much created a plan non-verbally of how to resolve all of this. And once we did that, once that shift happened, we both had ideas of how to prove that I wasn't even remotely close and all of those things. And things started to shift completely. And by the time they were done searching the house, Kristin had pretty much had a coaching session with the detectives, learned all about their family lives and their problems. And the whole dynamic had shifted. And this has happened to us so many times over the years. And that's the thing that you said earlier. You have to trust. You have to, even though you don't see any evidence on the outside, you have to go within and establish that connection. And that's why we always, tell our tribe, meditate every morning.
Yeah.
This connection.
Connect, yeah.
Because when you're going to need it the most, you'll have to have a way to get there.
Yes, I agree.
And if you don't practice it, you don't have to. You don't have a way to get there. So these magic moments have become, I don't want to say normal, but they're happening so often because life has become way more effortless because we live by that.
Joyful.
And joyful, yeah.
We laugh.
We do laugh a lot.
Is it because you kind of have now how can I say, you live in that vibration that you know exactly in terms of what is yours and what is not yours. You have that vibration where you kind of tune into what you feel at this point in time. Is this really mine or is this not mine? Or is this right? Or is this wrong or somebody? So you kind of have that down like to the point where you can identify what is right, what is wrong. And that's purely because you kind of get into that alignment every single day by meditating and just getting back to that space where you need to be.
Yeah, Tim, I call it authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you're coming from that anchored place in the morning. So you're in with yourself, you're aligned with yourself. So then when something's not in alignment with you, then it's not part of you, really.
I think this is our natural state of being. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
I completely agree with you.
So we go, because as a society, we live so much outside of that.
Yeah.
And that's not a part of what we grow up with.
Correct.
We now have all these teachings and all these teachers out there teaching that practice, when really, I want to say, if you move into your authentic state of being, who you really are.
Yeah.
Correct.
Purposes. That's your natural state.
Correct.
So sometimes you fall out of it. Okay. But that's really, so alignment is really just, for me, it's just, that's really our natural state as humans. It isn't really something we need to work hard on unless we aren't authentic. Then we need to work hard on it all the time.
And the wanting completely stops. I remember I wanted so many things, but now I don't want them anymore because I'm so in my authentic state all the time that I don't even have time to think about all the things I used to want.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't think about things that I want anymore because I'm just in that state of being and everything's flowing. There is no need for me to interrupt that flow. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm. But that's one of the two words that we use the most. Of course, inspired, because we love it, but authenticity. Mm-hmm. And it beats the practice of trying to be positive and fake positivity every day, because you can't talk yourself into half an hour of positivity. Yes, you can. I can teach you how to do it. That's like, NLP is about all of that. For those of you who know NLP, that's a great tool, but it's just a tool. For me, the goal is to be authentic. And that sometimes means if I get agitated or sometimes feel anger coming up, I do allow it for that moment, because
I agree.
Natural feeling. And then, it goes away. Boom. And then I fall back into my authentic state. And
sometimes things from the past come up. And you have to look at it and you have to heal it, pushing it down or pushing it away just because you don't want to be negative. That's just that's not authentic, because if it comes up, there's a reason why.
I completely agree with you, 100%.
There was somebody that actually, you're right, because I had somebody message me the other day from Lebanon who was listening to one of the podcasts that we'd loaded last week. And she said she looks forward to listening to them because she's driving to work every day and there's bombs going off and stuff, because she sent me videos. And she said, why does it, when I'm listening to your stories, it does bring up a lot of fear? And she said, why would that be? I said, because it's bringing out the energy that's deep inside of you, rooted back for when you're young with all the bombings that have gone on. And so that is a stuck emotion that's in there. And because you're listening to someone's story and you're driving and it's happening, it is bringing that to the surface. So that may be blocking you at this time. It's not a negative. It's not that someone's bringing it in. So it's right what Kristin just said. Certain things will bring things to the surface.
It's 100%, because it's when you live in your heart, you kind of just have to feel that emotion and saying, you know what, I acknowledge that it's here. Let me deal with it. And it could be with regards to what has happened. Or find someone to help you with it. But it's acknowledging it and say, okay, fine. Because that is an emotion. For me, I always look at it as it's got nothing. I can't touch it. It's an emotion. It comes from nothing. It has to go back to nothing, basically. So for me, it's like, it's not physical at all. You can't physically touch it. So you have to just deal with it through, whether it be breathing, where you find someone can talk you through it.
I think sometimes it's somebody, when it's your own stuff, sometimes it is harder. You do sometimes have to find, we've had guidance. People that have helped us to just, we knew it, but then someone has to pinpoint you, with that. And that's what you guys are doing as well. And that's where people, like when the lady messaged me the other day, I'm not going to say her name, she couldn't understand why she was getting these sad emotions, and fear was building through listening to positive stuff.
Well, unfortunately, people feel very often ashamed because of that.
Yeah,
because they feel like they should be positive all the time.
You can't do it all the time.
And they judge themselves because they feel those old traumas or whatever it is coming up. And then they feel ashamed because it's coming up and because they're not thinking positively. But I always say energy does not go away. It doesn't matter what kind of energy it is.
No, you're right.
It doesn't go away, and pushing it down doesn't make the energy go away until you shift it into something that's more pleasant or more healing. Or
yes, I agree.
Or serves you more, whatever it is.
Because our audience is, the way they find us, they are already on their path. They have discovered a deeper well inside of them. So they are what I call in the spiritual community, no matter how you specifically feel. And our biggest message has been, it's okay to be authentic.
Yes.
Because this tug of war that's going on inside of people, that's what's blocking them from all the joy, all the life, all the beauty the most. And then say, well, I've been reading books for 10 years. I've been meditating for so long. I shouldn't have these issues anymore. There's no timeline for that. There is no shouldn't. The magical moments happen and they will become more frequent in your life, not just something that is one pinpointed memory. It's when you move in that authentic state. And that means that, the way we live as a society, people just, experience shit. That's just how we
it's right.
It's true.
And some more than others. Yeah.
Yes, of course, the intensity is different, but no one in our society, the way we live, comes out of growing up without any shit. It just doesn't happen.
Well, you're not going to really grow.
That's a different story. But if you transform that, then, a memory without the emotional attachment, that's what Joe Dispenza says so eloquently. A memory without the emotional attachment is wisdom.
Yeah.
When you tell a story, an anecdote, and it's empowering, and you don't tear up and you don't fall apart because you have resolved it. You have resolved the emotion. You have kind of flipped the switch. You are, and then you tell the anecdote and it inspires others because they can feel your power, not your pain in it anymore. And that's when we hear those amazing stories when people say, I really went through something hard, but I'm in such a good place now. And it's from this place of empowerment that, we want to share our stories and our magical moments, because that's really what it is. It's authenticity more than anything.
Jean, I like the dynamic between the two of you. And you made a comment to say that you don't normally need to speak to be able to understand each other. And you guys are mentally speaking to each other without even words. Describe that feeling to people that's listening to, because I understand that it could come with a partner, it come with a soul partner, it can come with a friend, it can come with absolutely anyone you've got a connection with, where you kind of have that moment where you can't speak, but there's no words at all that comes out.
You can even have that with a pet.
Exactly.
They're not really talking, but they are.
Well, what do you feel?
I feel, well, there's just, maybe with our kids, it's the same, but there's really just you where I have that connection with. And I think it comes from a way deeper connection than what we just experienced in this lifetime. But it comes back to being totally authentic.
100%.
Being
have that trust.
Totally in love with who you are and in love with your partner. I feel it always comes back to those principles, no matter what situation in life it is.
But being 100% comfortable with each other, 100% true with each other, authentic.
Well, know what, being, like she just said, just yourself, not being what that person, a lot of people do say in relationships that they are being a certain way for them to like them more, or So what she's saying is correct. You're just being yourself, and that person's loving you for who you are, with all your positives and few negatives, it's the whole package, right?
Well, I always think of we've had so many long drives in our relationship. Sometimes, we'll be in a car for 6-7 hours, and sometimes we'll talk for 6-7 hours. Sometimes we're quiet for 6-7 hours. And both is equally satisfying and fine.
Yeah.
But there's also another dimension to this, is words to me are like crutches. We translate feelings, vibrations into words, and it only goes so far. A word can only describe so much. It has a very limited ability to actually describe a feeling or an experience. So to me, it feels like we're painting a picture, but you have to be in it to feel it, right?
Yeah.
And that comes from the courage to be quiet. You have to have courage. It's easy to sit with someone and just talk. Yeah. Obviously, we're doing a podcast. It wouldn't be very interesting for anyone to listen to us being quiet.
Or mentally speaking to each other.
There'd be like two people getting it. But if you are with someone new, you met someone new, even if it's not just a partner, maybe a new friend, you immediately know it's a special connection when you are comfortable being quiet with each other. You can sit there and be quiet for 5 minutes, and there's none of this, oh my God, I need to say something, I need to carry the conversation. And that's, I think, when we're authentic, and when the 100%. Other person is authentic, and then we have that connection, and whether we speak or not, we still communicate. And I've heard this over and over. This is one theme that I've heard from very successful, but also spiritual people. So people that don't just have material success, but that are kind of like, have in their soul journey as well. I've heard this over and over again. The first meeting between two, if you will, call them masters, is usually a non-speaking meeting. So I've heard this, and I can't remember who it was, but it was a wonderful story of two people that were equally successful in their lives and very spiritual as well. And they met in one of the guys' houses in the big library, and they just sat across from each other for an hour, not speaking a word. They got up, they shook hands, parted ways, and were lifelong friends. And we have, as humanity, we've moved so far from that level that now, we need to use words, and that's the source of all misunderstanding is using words. So it's a catch-22, and it comes back to what we said earlier: go into that quiet place more often, spending more time in nature, listening to how the universe thinks. And it's a powerful thing. And it doesn't just happen between lovers, It can happen between friends too, and sometimes between strangers.
Completely agree with you. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. When you meet someone, and I agree with that. I think it's, you've got your friends that you've known for a very long time. You just pick up from where you left off, and you don't need to speak or you don't need to do anything. And they're the people that that you have really a strong, like you said, connection with. I've got quite a few people that are like that. Mm-hmm. And we're also a bit like that, don't we? We won't talk, but we know, and you just intuitively know with that person without them even talking. And I think you're right, just being you, being authentic. Well, yeah, for me, it's everything. I can't stand it if it's personally, if it's not. Sounds really bad, but I just sniff it out instantly. I'm like, okay, not judging, just observing.
No, but that's, if you look at it, you can, if someone is authentically angry at a moment, you can deal with that. It's
correct. You're right. 100%.
If someone's authentically sad, it's a short-lived feeling if it's authentic.
Yeah.
Correct. And
you can deal with that. What probably none of us can deal with is fakeness.
Yes.
When someone is playing a part, that's where you go, this is awkward. Yeah. I don't want to be in this.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I can deal with everything else. That's fine. But fakeness, I don't do. That's, that's just something.
Everyone finding, and I think during this pandemic, when there was a lockdown, people had to sit with themselves and really go within, especially those that live by themselves, had to really look and go within deeper, and all of us. And I think that quiet time was actually a gift.
Indeed, it was.
Indeed,
it was a gift, wasn't it?
It was a gift because
we all rested.
Yes.
For the first time in our lives that we probably might not see again,
Well, we had such a, from a whole political control agenda standpoint, we were, of course, not totally opposed to any of those mandates and lockdowns. But at the same time, we were kind of hoping, back in March of last year, it's going to happen, because we knew because we had done it ourselves. We just had done it ourselves. We had removed ourselves from the rat race and done it ourselves. And we knew if this was being imposed on people, a lot of them were going to wake up to what's really inside.
Yes.
And that is what happened. So,
it did happen for a lot of people.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
If you can't go anywhere, if you can't distract yourself, if there's nothing, at some point you go within.
You've got to go with yourself.
Yeah.
Your own buddy. It's your buddy friend.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we finish? But it's been magical. Anything else you feel that's coming through?
I'll tell you something beautiful that was magical for us. It's we got married on a beautiful little island in Croatia. And it was one of those situations where no one understood why we had to get married there, and they had to drive for 6 or 7 hours, and we didn't care. And it was you always have to be different. You always have to do something special. You just can't get married like it. We didn't care. But the magic was that night we were dancing. It was outside under the stars. It was beautiful. And I know mentally people were eating, people were talking, people were drinking. We were dancing, and we were in our own world for like 4 or 5 hours. I don't remember anything around that. I just remember Christine and I, that was it. And it felt like something started there, and it's only expanded from there. We feel like that a lot of times. And we could go on and share life-changing, like really life-changing moments. But I think we consciously chose stories today that are maybe more relatable.
Yeah.
Because when you're in a bind, when you're waiting, hoping, praying for something, this big thing, there's such a big gap between where you are and what you desire. It's such a big gap. And we want people to know that the magic can happen in every day if you choose to see and allow it.
Completely agree.
100%.
And the benefit or the beneficial side effect is the more you allow the everyday magic, the more you're going to close the gap to the big moments. And because you're so practiced in allowing it, feeling it, then all of a sudden you'll find yourself with these big life-changing moments. And they do happen. But it's so much easier if you acknowledge the everyday little things that are happening, the numbers that align, the person that calls you, the alignment in words. You reached out, you're all about magic. I had just called this magic town on my phone, and all of this.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
The universe connected us through probably the word of magic, and maybe other things, I'm sure. But that is something I use all the time for the last 8 years in everything.
And I never really use that word, magic. So I do, but not like you do. For us, it's inspired. For you, it's magic. So we all have our words.
But your wife using that word in that one moment
was
that I looked.
Speaking. Actually, she spoke to me. We
correct.
spoke femally.
Yeah.
I love her magic.
Do you? Me too. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So,
and it's so childlike. To me, it's a child.
Yes. Me too.
And some of our listeners are very tight. And I feel like this wishing them a magical afternoon makes them childlike. So
100. I'm exactly the same thing. Yeah.
So if we can close with one message, it's, be playful and magical about your day, because magic is bound to happen. There's just a matter of whether you are open to see it and feel it or not. But it's happening all around you at all times.
And I think you're right, the children, because I always remember my son a few years ago, we were in New York, and I said, oh, let's do this, and this. And he says to me, can we not? Can we not plan the day? Because, Mommy, that's where all the magic is. I didn't plan a thing, and it was actually the best trip. Everything just worked out, and it was all the things we wanted to do, but I didn't book anything. We just walked around through the child.
Amen to that.
Amen to that.
Out like every single day.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. We thank the universe and the divine for connecting us through the shower.
Thank you so much for having us.
And we've loved it. And thanks for your message. And I think you're right. I think it was the right message for people at this time. And it will hopefully touch as many as it can be.
Yes.
Answer somebody. It will answer.
It will definitely.
100%. But thank you so much. And we're really grateful. And we'll get you back again.
Yeah, we'll definitely get you back again, because I'm sure there's huge magical moments that took place. I mean, we can share stories. I can tell you, because we had a couple of magical moments where I'm still looking back and I'm thinking, wow, I can't believe that just happened.
We'll do it again.
So yeah.
Oh, there's a well of those moments, really.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. When you
isn't it nice? Isn't it beautiful that we all have a well of those moments and we're filling it up every day?
It is, really. And I think a lot of people forget. And we can forget, even myself, and my son reminds me. So it's fantastic, so to get that, really.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, darlings, and lovely to see you again. And have a beautiful vacation.
Oh, thanks.
Sending you lots of angels and magical moments.
Thank you.
We'll bring back some of those. Thank you.